wondering, this is my social security card. I'm legal. I'm not an anchor baby. My parents came here legally. It's all right. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about immigration. I work at the YWCA Tulsa. Before the organizers bum rush the stage, that's not a pitch. I'm just trying to develop some street cred here. I want to talk a little bit about a civics lesson because let's face it, it's been a while since 8th grade and Coach Harris didn't do that good a job anyway. So citizens, what is that? It's people who were like me, born here, people like John McCain who were born abroad to American parents, people who've been naturalized, whatnot. But there's lots of other ways to be in this country legally as well. So there's legal permanent residents who are green card holders, there's visa holders who are here to work, like that French guy in the design cube across from you, or the physics student who's sitting next to you in class making you look bad. All these folks who are here but not planning on being here for the long term. There's also lots of other categories like asylum seekers or refugees or folks who are natural disaster victims who are here under temporary legal status, on and on and on and on, right? So there's this extremely elaborate system that gets people here in this country. This is not moving. Awesome. There we go, great. Okay, we've talked about non-immigrants. Basically, I'm here to talk to you all today about that ever so controversial class of immigrants, the undocumented. And the reason I want to talk to you about it today is because I want to dispel some of the myths that the talking heads on TV are often telling us that we all too often believe but really, really shouldn't. Undocumented folks are basically the folks who have either overstayed their visas or came here without really going through, quote unquote, the right channels. But we'll talk about that and why that's wrong in just a second as we advance through our slides. Slowly. I was really worried I wouldn't have enough time. I'm going to set some things straight here for you today. I'm going to talk a little bit about why some of the things that we've been told are a little bit of rhetoric and how our system is broken beyond belief and doesn't work for the economy that we all actually have and how we need to modify it a little bit. I want to tell you a little story about a guy that works for my family. His name is Dino. He's a really good guy. He's got a wife and 2 really, really cute kids. And he does all kinds of odd jobs for my family around the house and in their contracting business. And Dino and his wife also happen to be undocumented. And that means that at any given point, their 2 American-born children could come home and they could be missing. It's happened all too often. They absolutely want to be legal, but unfortunately, it's not that they're not playing by the rules, it's that there's no rules for them to play by. There's no line for them to get in, there's no form for them to fill out. Even though our economy depends on people like Dino and his wife, there's absolutely no way that we can keep them here legally. They're not necessarily here because they're wanting to drain our system. They're actually leaving places behind where they couldn't get jobs to come here to get jobs. They are doing work that people who are born here never wanted to do. You can ask your cousin, the contractor, and ask him if he's having a hard time finding labor because the folks who he would like to hire who have all the paperwork don't want to do the jobs. It also turns out that they are more employed than your average American citizen, so they're also the driving force employment is the driving force behind immigration, so it's the main reason that folks are coming here. So the laziness myth doesn't hold up. It's also not true that they're stealing all our jobs. As it turns out, in fact, undocumented folks being employed means the rest of us get better jobs and get higher wages. They fill a really, really important economic gap in our economic system, and by doing so, they kind of buoy up the rest of us and allow us to have better economic opportunities. Again, they're filling jobs the rest of us don't want to fill, and there's substantial evidence that they create jobs rather than, quote unquote, steal jobs, and they strengthen our local economies. Sorry, guys. I speak faster than I thought. Great. Not only do they not undermine our economy or depress our wages, but in fact they lift up our economy. Our economy, everywhere from strip malls to schools to houses to our crops that we harvest each season to the hospitality industry, absolutely depends on this kind of labor. They actually ensure that 90% of Native workers experience wage gains up to about $80 billion a year collectively. Sorry. And our friend Dino, he sends his kids to our schools, but he's not draining our system in the way that a lot of folks would have you believe. In fact, like most renters, he pays property taxes through his lease. He pays through his, and he also pays income taxes because the IRS, dirty little secret, doesn't care what your immigration status is. They'll assign you a number because all they want is their money. And for all of the hysteria we have surrounding our Social Security system, as it turns out, undocumented folks pay into the system and will never benefit from it. In fact, they'll never benefit from the vast majority of federal and state benefits. And so for years and years, they'll pay in and they'll never benefit. They're not eligible for health insurance, they're not eligible for Medicare or Medicaid. And so when they go to the doctor, when Dino takes his kids to the doctor, he pays out of pocket cash. A lot of people would say that Dino's more likely to commit crimes, but the fact is Dino's lacking of papers actually means that he keeps his head down and he plays by all the rules. In fact, he plays by all the rules so much that he's 2.5 times less likely to commit any crimes or get into any trouble than your average Joe Six-Pack, which means that these folks actually make our communities more safe rather than less so. I have to slow down. Dino's daughter is about 10 years old and she spends a lot of time communicating on behalf of her mom, who came here as an adult, and as we all know, it's really hard to learn a foreign language in adulthood. And yet, Dino's grandkids, his kids' will probably not only speak English fluently, but they will probably also not speak Spanish. They will probably lose their ability to speak their native language, which is kind of ironic to me as we are as a country desperately trying to teach our kids a second language so that they can be viable in a global economy and in a global workforce. So the question is, why is it our problem, right, that Dino didn't quote-unquote play by the rules and he didn't come through the right channels? Well, the problem is that our economy depends on labor like this, but there's no channels for him to go through. And this whole idea of creating a path to legal citizenship doesn't mean amnesty for bad behavior. It just means creating a way for our economy to create an access point for these folks. There's just no way for them to access the system. The demands that they quote-unquote just become legal are unfounded because there's no way for them to become legal. Our system doesn't allow for it. And it doesn't mean that they're cutting in line.